good morning, good afternoon, or good evening if you're watching this on the replay. So, I am so excited to be talking to you guys about the digestive system. So, if you are tuning in for the first time or the first time in a long time, we have started a series called Systems to Care, okay? And Systems to Care is just about bodily systems that a lot of times we might not know a lot about, or we might sometimes want to know more about. So we have gone through the muscular system, we've gone through the skeletal system, and so we are now moving into the digestive system. So this will be a two-part system. We're going to go over the first two parts of the digestive system. Good morning, Wendy. And then next week, we're going to go over the last two parts of the digestive system. So I think a lot of times we think about the digestive system, everybody thinks about gut health, which is huge. And I agree that it is definitely something that we need to be tuned in and aware of. And so if that is something that interests you, tune in next week. But I'm going to take a little bit of time to go over some of the things that we might put to the back of our radar when a lot of times this is the first part of the digestive system. So the digestive system is made up of four parts. It's made up of the mouth, the esophagus, the stomach, and then your intestines. And so your intestines are divided into two, the large and the small. And so we get hooked up into like the stomach and the intestines a lot of times because this is where, our microbiome is, and a lot of things revolve around gut health, and I completely agree with you. But I think a lot of times we kind of put the mouth and the esophagus on the back burner. And so I'm going to do due diligence to them today and talk about them for a little bit, okay? So if you're watching this on the replay, if you will hashtag replay for me, that way I can know that you watched. I really appreciate you guys tuning in. So without further delay, the first is the mouth, okay? And so, first of all, in our mouth we have teeth, as everybody knows. But I think this is really important because I want you to think about the different animals and the different species that we have in and around, and think about how their teeth are designed specifically for the diet in which they are consuming most readily, okay? And so think about like a dog and how their mouth is different, So the whole reason why we call, our two sharp teeth right here, our canines, is from a dog, right? But think about, let's say, the mouth of an elephant. So an elephant doesn't have canines because an elephant primarily eats grass, right? And so think about that when we think about our mouth and how it was designed so perfectly for us being omnivores. So us being something that eats both, plants and meat, okay? So notice that you do have a salivatory response, okay? And so any of you guys that know me know that I have a background in like psychology and sociology. It's just kind of like that weird thing about me that I really like to kind of dive into. Mindset's huge for me. If you've worked with me in the past, you know this. But the reason why I say this is because there was a lovely psychologist. Its name was Pavlo. And Pavlo studied the response of saliva and the salivatory response to things being cued, okay? And so the reason why I say that is because as I've been talking about saliva and your mouth watering, notice, has your mouth watered at all when you are actually watching this video? If so, you have good key salivatory responses, and that's what's supposed to happen, okay? And so Pavlo, what he did was he associated feeding to dogs with a bell. And so what would end up happening is he would come in and he would always ring a bell before he fed the dogs, and he would measure a salivatory response, so saliva occurring and starting based off of the ringing of the bell. And so it didn't take long. Good morning, Wendy. It didn't take long for Pavlo to discover that the bell started the salivatory response and not the food. So that, like these things can be cued, okay? And so this is one of the reasons why when you are driving down the road and you see all of these billboards for these, fast food restaurants, you start feeling hungry, okay? And you start feeling like this, like mouth watering, like you see Wendy's and it's not just like the girl with the pigtails, right? You see Wendy's and you think, oh, square bun. And then you start thinking, oh my gosh, French fries. And then you start thinking, oh my gosh, French fries and Frosty. And so I don't know how many of you guys that when I just described that for like 20 seconds had a salivatory response. And so this is what's supposed to happen because it is how our body starts the breaking down of our food. So there are wonderful little tiny micro components to our saliva, Amy glands, that actually break down all of our food and start that process before it even gets swallowed, okay? And so these are also associated with taste buds, okay? And so think about with your mouth, we have a salivatory response, yes, but we also have taste buds, okay? And so studies have actually shown, I found this very interesting again, that you are heightened to your sense of taste when you are hungry, okay? And so those of you that are, constantly trying to lose weight, it's going to be sometimes a little bit more difficult for you because you're going for those grab and goes because your body's needing something and it's wanting, when you crave something sweet or you crave something salty, okay? There's actually 5 taste buds. And so there's sweet, salty, bitter, and then umami, which is like savory. And so these things are here and they're on different locations of our tongue, actually. I thought this was interesting too, because bitter is at the back of your tongue, because bitter oftentimes are given, of course, when we think about bitter, we think, oh, a lemon, or we think of something that has high acid content in it. But when you think back to, let's say, Stone Age days, and the reason why we have bitter as a taste is because it allowed us to know if something was going to be potentially harmful to us. So if we had a berry that was bitter, we would spit that out. And so it was the Lord's natural response to us for us to know, like, hey, this is bitter. I don't want this in my mouth. And it's highly correlated with it being something that probably shouldn't have been in our mouth to begin with, which I thought was an amazing thing to think about. So there are different taste buds and they are located in different areas of your tongue. So know as you are hungry, you're going to crave different things and that those taste buds are going to be enlightened. And so, good morning, Monica. One of the ways that we can make sure to kind of counteract this is to know that we need to have things that are here and ready for snacks. That is a completely different series and a completely different talk. I won't dive into that very much, but do know you are going to have a different reaction from your taste buds if you are hungry, okay? And so it's going to be harder for you to stop because, the things that you're putting in your mouth are just going to be intensified, right? And so how many of you guys been like, you're really hungry and you don't have anything planned, right? It happens sometimes, we all are human, and we go for something that we know we probably shouldn't eat, but when we put it in our mouth, it's just like, oh my goodness, this is so amazing. Why does this taste so amazing? Because it's bad for me? No, because probably you're hungry and you really needed something. And when you put it into your mouth, those taste buds are enlightened because of the hunger. Okay, so keep that in mind. Keep in mind too, your body craves things that it needs. Okay, so there's a reason why we have the sense of, sweet and salty and savory and bitter. So if you're craving something sweet, it might be that your body needs energy. If you're craving something salty, it might be that your body needs some type of sodium. That's highly unlikely right now with the American diet because everything includes sodium already in it. But we do have tendencies to have cravings for sweet or for salty. And so know that those are innately in tune with what your body could potentially be needing. Okay. So there are 10,000 taste buds and we do replace those every 2 weeks. Isn't that crazy? Our bodies are such amazing things. Do know as you get older, unfortunately, I feel like every single time I have this talk, I say the exact same thing in regards to, as you get older, things just don't work more efficiently as they used to. And so I'm sorry about that. It is the world that we live in. It is the bodies that we have, right? But good morning, Donna. It is okay. We do have about 5,000 working taste receptors as we age. So as we do get older, do know that things are not going to be as tasteful, unfortunately, right? And so that doesn't mean that you have to live a bland life. You just might need to add a little extra hot sauce, or, you know, kick up your Italian seasoning a little bit. Do know that that's something that's going to happen, just because they don't work as efficiently as when we were young. And so this might be another reason why, if you have littles, that everything that they consume is just so intensified. You know, when you talk about a toddler, when you talk about a baby, when you talk about feeding them something from the very beginning, they say don't put a lot of spices in it. And it's because, you know, when they're learning, everything is just intensified because those things are so bright and new and refreshed. And so, good thing to kind of keep in mind. So that is your mouth in general. Okay, so we have teeth, we have saliva, we have taste buds, we have all of those things that help us with the start of breaking down food. Okay, the second thing is what connects our mouth to our stomach, which is called the esophagus. So, nice little fact here: the esophagus is the only organ that has both skeletal and smooth muscle. And so if you were with me on that talk, we talked about the 4 different types of muscles, and then do know too that it's going to start off as a skeletal muscle, and then it's going to move down into a smooth muscle. And so your esophagus is, it's right in here, and it's only between like 9 and 10 inches long, okay? And so it does have a sphincter, which is at the top of it and at the bottom of it. And so a lot of times people think, like when we have liquid, oh, it just slides down the esophagus. No, actually there are muscles that are help pushing it down, right? Okay? And so as we age, again, here we go. I feel like I'm just such the Debbie Downer today in regards to aging. But as we age, those sphincters do sometimes not work as well. And so when we talk about, a sphincter, it's just an opening. And so when things get on top of it, it opens up and it allows it to go down into the tube. And then it's the same thing. There's another one down here that will open up when food or liquid hits it and allows it to go into the stomach. Okay. And so as we age, those don't close up as well. And so this is one of the reasons why we are more likely to have GERD, or basically like reflux. Another word for reflux is GERD. And so this also happens when we are pregnant. And so know like why you never have like indigestion or acid reflux unless you're pregnant. Well, it's because everything is shifting and everything is like pushing up and on those things. And so it's just so much easier for it to go up here, because what used to be way down here is way up here because of, the baby. And so that's one of the reasons why that happens. And so those of you that are prone to having like reflux, some of the things that you could potentially do to help with that would be having small meals. And so know that it's going to be easier if you have a smaller meal for your body to take and, push it down into the stomach, and it further, start the digestion of going into the intestines, rather than it being something that's big and then it has a hard time taking something that's a huge meal and like starting it to like flow down into the intestines. So you're going to be more likely to have reflux come up because your stomach is full. And so this is another reason why it's great to have small, frequent meals. We talk about this a lot of times. Those of you that are doing Trim Healthy Mama, those of you that have been with me for, my upping metabolism and things of that nature, these are great things to instill, and these are great things that, we talk about all the times, but it just kind of reaffirms it when you have other responses that you're like, oh, well, that makes sense why we're not supposed to have these like huge meals. That's why we have small, frequent meals. But that is one of the reasons why. Okay. So if also you could avoid caffeine and carbonated drinks, caffeine just has a negative response. It's very acidic. We talk about acid, and like the bringing up of that, but also the carbonated drinks can also fizzle in with that too. And so you should be avoiding caffeine and carbonated drinks if you are someone that experiences acid reflux on a continual basis. The other thing is to stay upright after eating. Again, I'm going to kind of go back to babies. And so how oftentimes, like after we feed them and, we say that they're prone to acid reflux, they're prone to, having colic a lot of times is often misdiagnosed with just acid reflux. And so, we feed them and then they get really sleepy, and then we just want to lay them down and let them go to sleep because they're so cute and beautiful, and you know, who doesn't love a sleeping baby? But if you do that, their openings, their sphincters aren't as developed either, and so that acid comes back up and burns them from their tummy, and so from the bile in the stomach. And so know that if you can stay upright after eating, if you don't lay down, those things like that, if you don't go out and do tons of exercise with like lots of jumping, this is a good thing to have, you know, happen. And the same thing happens when we talk about sleeping. If you can sleep at a tilt, so if you're someone that wakes up in the middle of the night with indigestion, it could be that if you could just prop yourself up with pillows a little bit more, you're less likely to be able to have that acid kind of come back up and burn again. And so know that that is a good tip if you are someone that potentially has the side effects of GERD. But these are the first two components of the digestive system. And so do know that there's a reason why we have taste buds. Do know that there is a salivatory response when we talk about thinking about food. It's your body's innate response to get things going to where you can be able to break it down. And know that your esophagus is a muscle. And so these are good, healthy things to know, and to know how they work and why they work, to be able to allow us to be a little bit more efficient with the bodies that God created us with. And so if you guys have any questions about the mouth or the esophagus, or if you have things that you want to know about the stomach or the intestines, let me know in the comments below. I would love to hear any questions that you guys have, and I can definitely help you out with that. Oh, thanks so much, Kimberly. I really appreciate that. I'm so glad that you guys tune in. I really hope that this is something that does enlighten you. I think our bodies are so amazing, and I think there's so much knowledge out there, and a lot of times we just think, oh, this is how it works, and you know, this is what we're gonna do. But if we know the why and the how behind, I think that we can give our bodies what we need to be able to further support them. And so I really appreciate that, Kimberly. Thank you so much. Have a beautiful rest of your day, guys. And if you need help with anything, if you need encouragement, if you need to know anything about anything with the Wellness Wednesdays, let me know. And I'll also link the past episodes in case you guys want to follow back and watch those as well. So have a beautifully blessed day, guys, and I will see you next week.